What would it take for you to walk away from $300,000 a year? The real question this is asking is, would you trade away your happiness, mental well-being, or real passion for money? Let's talk about what walking away really means and why it's so damn hard. How much money is no longer worth the slow unraveling of yourself? What is your tipping point where you can no longer be bought? It's something that I'm currently going through, and it's a lot more complex than it first seems. I want to start with the feeling of guilt. On paper, everything looks enviable. So what reason do you have to complain? When you're at work, you may be the only one who seems to not be okay with what's going on. Your work colleagues don't seem to have the same trouble or problems that you do. Other than a little bit of complaining here and there, your colleagues seem to stay and tolerate what you no longer can. Have you ever looked around your workplace and thought, am I the only one seeing the walls closing in? And for your family, they may rely on you, depend on you, and see your unhappiness or desire to leave as selfish or just not understand. But there's really nobody to guide you through making the decision. There is no playbook. For me, the lack of autonomy, hierarchy, and inequity were the big reasons for wanting to leave. It wasn't all at once, but over time it became something that I just couldn't overlook anymore. I also saw changes in my mental well-being, in my confidence, and in my happiness. I could just tell that 10 years from now, I was going to be in a place that I didn't want to be and become a person that I didn't want to be. How long could I be sedated by the salary, overlooking this invisible injury that I had collected over the many years I'd spent in healthcare? It was the thousands of cuts over 16 years. Nothing obvious, nothing that was easy for me to explain or put into words, but over time, I'm not sure you could see any skin anymore. And that explained why the smallest slight or comment felt like someone hitting a raw nerve. This was a clue that it was time to go. Take this cup of water. It could be half full or half empty, but I'm not really sure why we're discussing the fullness or volume at all. The fact of the matter is, the glass is not filled to the top. It will never satiate your thirst. It will always just give you enough to keep you. I don't even like this cup. So the complexity of this question lies in the many reasons for leaving. It could be in identity, your purpose, your health, who you are versus who your job has made you to be. The money is the simplest part to explain and the least important part of the equation. This is not a game of money, it is a game of sovereignty. That's ownership of self. What is about your current job that you can no longer tolerate? What has become so at odds with who you are or who you know you should be that you just can't stand by anymore? That you have to take action, you have to make a change. I want to play devil's advocate for a second. Counter argument. There are people that shouldn't leave. There are some people who have boxed themselves into a tremendous amount of responsibility. They have a large number of dependents. They have crushing financial debt. It's something where the responsibility itself does trump all of the conversation around wanting to leave. What about the people who have no dependents? What about the people who will not crush anyone by making this decision? Why then is it so hard for these people to leave? What is actually holding them there? When I first started making this salary, I thought I would never leave. I thought it would have to take an act of God to get me to give up a salary I had worked so hard to reach, that I had wanted. As you can see now, the subject is so much more complex than at the surface. It's my hope that you realize that how you feel is not wrong. It's also not selfish, but it is important that you start discovering who you are, what you want, and how you want to spend your time here on this earth. Without that knowledge, it's going to be very hard to truthfully answer this question. Discovering who I was and who I could be outside of my job is proving to be my next challenge. But I do know that I am so much more than just anesthesia. In fact, all of the time that I spent outside of work with my research-obsessed deep dives, I had unknowingly compiled and curated an entire knowledge bank on how to live well, and squirreled it away for later. But it is later now, and that's something that I want to explore here. So I'm writing my own playbook. I'm developing a roadmap for those of us who are ready to stop unraveling. I'm documenting my 2-year exit from my golden handcuffs. I'm exploring all the things I've curated on living well, and I hope you join me here.